them apart, pretty soon it starts losing its adhesive property, okay? It starts losing its adhesive property. Or to put it another way, anyone play guitar, stringed instruments in here, okay? You know, you get calluses on your fingers, right? So when you first sit down, you're like, you're playing, and it hurts. It really hurts your fingers. But over time, your fingers develop calluses. They develop a thicker skin here, okay? I'm a string instrument player myself. So, those calluses come back, or are there, which is all well and good because then it doesn't hurt as bad. But when you have calloused fingers and you touch something, your sensitivity is diminished, right? And then if you stop playing that instrument for a while, eventually the sensitivity comes back, the calluses go away. The human heart, okay, if we can, not literally, okay, but symbolically, if we say the heart is what, is the sticky part of the person, and those two hearts come and stick together. When they rip apart and then come back together, and rip apart and come back together, they lose their adhesive qualities, so that what you have are people who, in college, or even high school, but usually college or later, who they go through a bad breakup. And then they start kind of just sleeping around to maybe get over it, to get over the pain, all right? And then pretty soon, sex could lose its adhesive quality altogether, you see? So pretty soon, some guy could be like, yeah, whatever, man, I met this chick at this party last week. Oh, yeah, she's awesome, dude. I hope she doesn't have my number, whatever, okay? People get to this point where sex becomes an activity that just takes place, but it no longer has the ability to pair bond. So what you have, that's a very long way of answering your question, when you have people who have been very sexually active with many partners, and then they start dating and they get married, by then, sex has lost much of its adhesive quality. They never get the feeling like they're completely bonded. The way that the heart becomes calloused, and the way the heart becomes calloused is oftentimes like this. They'll say, well, I've been hurt a lot, so this next girl I date, I'm going to kind of not really reveal myself completely. I'm not going to throw myself out there to be hurt. I'm going to keep some distance, and then when I get broken up with, it won't hurt as bad. See, if I don't commit my sense of self as much into this relationship, then when it ends, I'll be okay. It's a powerful subconscious process. We don't want to be hurt. Part of the reason why people after breakup go around and sleep with one person after another is they're trying to build that callus as quick as they can so they stop feeling the pain. Okay? That's why people do it. It's important to understand kind of the psychological reasons why we do this. So the more partners a person sleeps with, when they finally get married, that marriage, that sexual act, does not have nearly the unitive property that it once did. And so a divorce becomes very easy because they do not feel as pair bonded to that person. Okay? By the way, when a person has sex for the first time, this is a high school statistic, okay? Boy or girl, okay, they're dating someone and they have sex for the first time. Do you know how long, on average, they continue to date?
A week.
Close. 21 days, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. So an act, which is, sometimes when I say that in class, I have people going, it can't be the case. 3 weeks is the average. That means that there are some that are less, some that are more, okay? Now that's an interesting thing because most of the way the body works, the way we're kind of naturally composed, is that when we have sex for the first time, your body thinks, now I'm with my pair bonding partner, and we're going to have a child. That's what your body thinks, okay? Whether you think it or not, that's what your body thinks, okay? Your deeper brain is thinking. And when, on average, 21 days later, it separates. That is extremely devastating. I was a high school teacher for 4 years. I taught seniors, and one thing I never appreciated was when adults would say to kids who were heartbroken, like, oh, you're just a kid, it's not a big deal, it's not. I've always been like, no. That high school student who is devastated, that is real devastation. Don't dismiss it as some kind of immaturity, okay? Maybe when you're 10 and it's like, this girl, I mean, that's one thing, okay? But no, if they were really dating and they felt what felt to them like love and they were sexually active and they've broken up, that is an extremely painful thing to go through. Very devastating thing, okay? So that's one of the things. So basically, I'm going to show you something here. So the divorce rate hovers around 50%. And maybe I'll finish up this point and then we'll take our break, right? So the divorce rate hovers around 50%, okay? If you do these three things, your divorce rate, statistically, 10%. Hey, you've gone from a coin toss to a pretty good chance. Okay. Who wants to know the three things? Huh? The first thing, and I will explain this. You might think like this makes no sense, but it does. The couple does not live together before marriage. Okay? Now this goes against common sense. You go, well, wait a minute. A couple who lives together before they're married, they're much more likely to stay together because they've already tested it out, right? They know it works. They've been trying it. And they go, okay, let's just make it official. That's how it looks on paper. How it really goes down is very different, okay? When a couple lives together before they're married, what actually happens in most of those cases, or a great number of those cases, is one of them does not really entirely want to get married. You have one person saying, come on, it's been 3 years, it's been 4 years, what's going on? When are we going to seal the deal here? And the other person kind of goes, all right. They eventually are broken down and they do it, okay? So when people live together before they're married, people go, they just want to try it out. But what happens is, when it doesn't go well, they don't necessarily break up and separate. They don't really go, this isn't working out, because now you've invested a lot more. It's easier to break up with someone when you're not living together, okay? When you're not living together and you break up, there is no, maybe it's like, yeah, you left your phone in my house, or why would you leave your phone? Whatever. You left something in my house, come pick it up, but that's it, When you're living together, you're already in this commitment and it's harder to break up. But they also found a psychological reason why a couple who cohabitates is more likely to divorce. And the reason is this. When a couple moves in together, the mentality is, let's see if this works, okay? So they're not committed. They're testing it, okay? They're testing the waters. What they found is that you could do that for a couple of years. When you eventually do get married, what they find is that going to a church or in front of a judge and getting presents from your family and having a party does not cause a psychological shift. That's a very, very dramatic psychological shift to happen where it's like we are no longer testing the waters, we are now committed. And a ceremony and a party doesn't change that. So these couples mentally are still in a state of, if this doesn't work out, I want to bail. Okay? A couple who does not live together before they're married, okay? Who they're going, okay, I got to test this out, and they're not caught in anything that's hard to get out of, right? As hard to get out of, okay? When they get married, something very profound happens, psychologically profound. Not only do you have this ceremony and this party and get presents, you move in together and you have sex together in your house. Like it's like there's this major life shift. Like when you go to college, okay? That was like a bigger shift than simply getting your diploma, all right? Like that's a whole different shift. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are from here. Like in my case, I went off to college. I went 4 hours north of San Luis, where I grew up. That was like, my life is different now, okay? When you get married after you've been living together, your life does not feel different. Okay? Your life does not feel different. And so mentally, you are still in the state, whether you consciously recognize it or not, of saying, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to bail. Okay? So counter to common sense, sometimes common sense isn't so common, okay? Living together before you're married triples your divorce rate. Let me say that again. Living together before you are married triples your divorce rate. Okay? What I hear a lot from people, is, oh, but you don't understand. What we have is special. We're different. The rules don't apply to us. And I say, come see me in a year. The nature of love and the nature of the emotions and the nature of the whole chemical cascade is to make us feel like what we have is rare and is special. And what we have is so strong that all of the odds against us are going to do nothing. And we reinforce that with movies. Drives me nuts. You know, in these movies, we're like, against all odds, they made all the wrong decisions, but it all worked out great. And I thought, what a terrible message to tell people that it's not going to work out great for the majority of people, okay? For those who live together before they're married, they have a 75% divorce rate. 3 out of 4 couples who live together divorce. Those who do not live together before they're married, their divorce rate is 25%.
I had a question.
Sure.
Does that statistic mean they were in a relationship a year and then they moved in, or was a relationship for 4 years and then moved in?
Good question. All they looked at was whether they lived together before they got married. That's it and that's all. You know? By the way, I will show you one little exception to this. And don't perk up your ears like, oh, good. Because remember, statistically, it could go different for you. For whatever reason, and I have my thoughts on why this might be, and I think it might be kind of obvious, a cultural difference. For whatever reason, with Hispanic people in America, if you have never slept with someone, okay, and you date that person, and then you move in together, okay, and you start having babies, you just start a life, but you never went through with marriage, okay, and then you go and get married, their divorce rate is not altered at all. For whatever reason, that whole statistic of how but that only works if they've never lived with someone else before. So for whatever reason, with white people, if you live together before you get married, but for Hispanics, when they come together and they live together before they're married, if they've never lived with anyone else and that's their first serious relationship, and then they get married after a couple of years, for whatever reason, they turn out to be generally okay. I think it's a generational thing. I think that's more likely to be with second generation. I don't think that's going to be the case with third. Okay, and I think that's too much to go into now. You might kind of understand kind of just the cultural difference of why that might be. Okay, it's the same thing. I can tell you that today, the younger you are when you get married, the more likely you are to divorce. Okay? If you get married at 18, just call a divorce lawyer and just put them on retainer. It's not going to last. Okay, over 90% failure. Okay, if you're 18. But in 1950 in America, that was not the case. 18-year-olds had a 90% success rate. So you meet tons of people who are old, really old now, okay? Who they're we got married out of high school. Back then, girls would walk around showing off their engagement rings their senior year. People got married right out of high school and they stayed together. It's the same thing going on with Hispanics when they marry and they stay together. It's because of a cultural difference, okay? Coming from a different cultural foundation. But once you assimilate into the American way of life, that goes away. Sorry, I'll get these other two out real fast, okay? Don't cohabitate. Having a child soon, okay? Having a child within the first year or two, okay? Year and a half. Soon. And this is after marriage, okay? Again, you kind of think, but aren't people going to get along more if they just kind of wait 5 years to have a kid, they can focus on themselves? Doesn't work that way. As soon as they have remember, we're designed to have sex and babies, okay? That's what we're designed for, okay? So when that couple comes together and they start having babies, they're fulfilling the nature of what sex is for, okay? And so the natural law favors them, all right? And thirdly, and this is interesting, by the way, this study has been done multiple times from many different angles, okay? And this study is very, very solid. Lastly, a family that prays together once a day, even if it's just a prayer before a meal. Even if it's just a prayer before a meal. So that couple sits down with their little baby and they say their prayer before they eat. Even something as simple as that. Why? Not because the prayer is magical, okay? It's because it's in a study like this, it's an indicator of that they more likely have a sense of a religious responsibility towards the stability of a marriage. Okay? All right?